One of the topics you will have to know on the science test for the GED is finding mean, median, mode, and range. And a lot of times those words get confused. People mix up the mean and the median, but they are on the math test, the social studies test, and the science test. So let's look at what each of these is, and then we'll do some examples. So the first thing, looking at what each one is. Mean is just another word for average, and you need to know that mean and average are the same thing. Those two words, the question may ask you for the average, it may ask you for the mean, but it is found the same way. And what you will do to find the mean, you add all the numbers, however much data you have, add all of those data, and then divide by how many there are. Add and then divide. The second one, the median. Median, I like to say, is like the middle. So if you think about the road when you're driving down the road, the median is in the middle. The trick with the median is that you have to put the numbers in order from least to greatest. If you just pick the middle number off of a list that you're given, most likely it's not going to be correct. So put the numbers in order from least to greatest and then find the middle. If there's an odd number of data, finding the middle is easy. Just pick the middle number. If there's an even number, you have to find the 2 in the middle, add those, and divide by 2. So we'll look at some examples of both of those situations. The third thing, the mode, is the most. It's the number that repeats the most often. It's not the highest number, it's the most frequent number in the data. And you could have no mode if there are no repeats. You could have one mode, you can have more than one mode. And the last one, the range, also known as the spread. But to find that, you're going to take the highest number and subtract the lowest number. So the highest minus the lowest for finding the range. With the science test, most of the time they will not just give you a list of numbers for you to find mean, median, mode, and range. Most of the time they will give you some kind of data, graph, or table, and you will have to find the numbers that you need from those visuals. So the examples we look at, we have graphs, we have charts, but we're going to talk about finding mean, median, mode, and range for each of those. So here's our first example. Students counted the number of birds visiting a feeder at different times of day. The data collected is shown in the graph below. This is a line graph. Line graphs are very useful when you show passage of time. But we have different readings when the students went out and counted the birds. So at 8 a.m., we see there were 5 birds. And at 10 a.m., there were 8 birds. And at noon, there were 12 birds. At 2 p.m., there were 10 birds. 4 p.m., another 8. And 6 p.m., looks like 6. So now I have my list of numbers that I got from the graph. To find the mean, we have to add all these numbers together and divide by 6 because that's how many numbers there are. So on our calculator, we're going to add the numbers 5, 8, 12, 10, 8, and 6. I get 49 for the sum, and we'll divide that by 6 numbers. That gives me 8.16. 6, 6. And the next question that always comes up is, what do I need to round to? So I tell you to go back and refer to the question to see what they tell you to round to. A lot of times they'll tell you to round to tenths, but they may tell you to round to hundredths. So consult the question to see what you need to round to. But in this case, we're going to round to tenths. When I look at the 1, which is in the tenth spot, and I look over to my neighbor, it is more than 5. So this 8.1 will round up to 8.2 for the average or the mean number of birds visiting the feeder. For the median, Remember, we have to put them in order. If I just go for the middle, I'm going to find the difference between 12 and 10 and say the median is 11, but that's not right. So let's put them in order. 5, 6, 8, 10, 12. Left one off. Oh, there's another 8 in there. 8, 10, 12. So 5, 6, 8, 8, 10, and 12. So when I find the median, the middle is these two 8s. I have two numbers less than 8, two numbers more than 8. So 8 and 8, since both numbers are the same, my median is also going to be 8. For the mode is the number that repeats the most. We have two 8s, so 8 will be our mode. And our range, if I take the highest and subtract the lowest, 12 minus 5 gives me a range of 7. So that is the mean, median, mode, and range for this set of data, for this set of numbers that represents the birds at the feeder. Let's look at another example. This one, we have masses of grams or masses of rocks measured in grams collected by students. Same thing, we have data represented in a table. And we're going to find the mean, median, mode, and range. So to find the mean, we're going to add these numbers. 48, 50, 55, 48, 52, 55, and 60. And I get a sum of 368. We'll divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. 368 divided by 7 gives me 52.57 for an average or a mean. We're going to look at this and try to round to the nearest tenth. Looking at my 5 in the 10th spot, when I look over here, this number is more than 5, so it will round up to 52.6 when we round. To find the median, first thing we have to do is put our numbers in order. So I'm going to rewrite them in order. 48 is the lowest number. I have another 48. I have a 50. I have a 52. I have two 55s and a 60. So I've got 7 numbers. When I look at the middle, 52 is the middle number. I have 3 numbers less than 52, 3 numbers more than 52. The mode, so in this we're looking for repeats. And I have 2. I have two 48s and I have two 55s. So we have 2 modes, 48 and 55. And for the range, we want the highest number, 60, minus the lowest number, 48. So our range would be 12. So once again, it's not hard math. You just need to become very familiar with how to find mean, median, mode, and range. But you'll be able to use a calculator, so adding and dividing should not cause a problem for you. Let's look at one with a bar graph. So this bar graph, Molly is planning a vacation to Florida in October. She researched the number of hurricanes to form in October in the years 2018 to 2024. The data is shown in the bar graph, and we want to find the mean, median, mode, and range. So when you're reading a bar graph, and I point this out especially for the mode, because the question won't ask you to find all 4. You'll usually just have to find one. And so one of the mistakes that students make when they're given a bar graph, if they're asked to find the mode, they automatically look for the most, the 6, and say that 6 is the mode. But 6 isn't the mode because the mode doesn't represent the highest number. The mode represents the number that repeats the most. So let's list our data and see if we can figure out the mean, median, mode, and range. So on this bar graph in 2018, it shows me there were 3. It really doesn't show me 3, but 2 and 4. And so the number in between that, sometimes your scale will not be filled in with every number. So you may have to figure out what number that represents. So this one, there are 3 that were in 2018. 2019, if I come over here, well, between 0 and 2 is 1. The 2020, there were 6. 21, that's another 1 year. 22 is a 2 year. 23, another year for 1, and 24 is a 4 year. So if I list this data, 3, 1, 6, 1, 2, 1, 4, it's much easier to see the mode that way than just trying to look at the graph. So let's find the mean first. We'll add these numbers together. So 3, 1, 6, 1, 2, 1, and 4. I get 18. We take 18 and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 numbers. 18 divided by 7 gives me 2.57. If I round to the nearest tenth, it will become 2.6 for the mean of the number of hurricanes in a year for those 7 years. The median, we have to list them in order. If I just pick the middle number the way they're listed, it's a 1. So we have to list them in order. I've got 1, 1, 1. I have 3 ones. I can mark them off. I have a 2, a 3, and a 4. 2, 3, and 4. And then I have a 6. So when I find the median, if I've listed them in order, I have the number 2 in the middle. There are 3 numbers less, 3 numbers more. So my median of 2. My mode, as I mentioned, if you just look at the graph, you might want to pick the number 6. But when I list the data, you can see the mode is 1 because the 1 appears 3 times. On the range, highest minus the lowest, 6 minus 1 is a range of 5. So some years there were a lot of hurricanes, some years there were not very many. But that is the range for the data of the hurricanes. Now, one last thing that they will ask you to do, and this one always gives students trouble, is when they ask you to find some missing data. So, for example, this question, students get really good at finding the average and finding the mean, but in this case, it's not what we're asked to do. Miss Othmar's class performed an experiment in which they grew plants under different conditions. The height of each plant was recorded in the table. Charlie Brown spilled water on the paper. Poor Charlie Brown, nothing ever goes quite right. And the height of plant G is not legible. Fortunately, Miss Othmar knows the average of all 8 plants is 9.6. So this is the information I need to know. I have an average of 9.6 and there are 8 plants. So to find missing data, this is a question where we're trying to find a missing number from my list. What you're going to do is take the average that we want and we're going to multiply the average times how many numbers we have. So in this case, we're going to take 9.6 times 8 plants. So 9.6 for my average times 8 plants gives me 76.8. And what that means is the sum of all of these plants needs to equal 76.8. I know the heights of 7 of them, so we can take this 76.8 and subtract the 7 plants, and that's going to give me my missing piece. So I'm going to add these all up, 4.5, 15, 9, 12.1, 11, 9, and 7.8. And so far I have 68.4. The 7 plants I know add up to 68.4. If I subtract 68.4, 76.8 minus 68.4, 76.8 minus 68.4, we get an 8.4 height for that missing data for that last plant. If you do this, then I strongly suggest checking it to make sure you're right, because we know how to find the mean. So let's add up these 8 numbers: 4.5, 15, 9, 12.1, 11, 9, 8.4, and 7.8. And we get 76.8. If I divide that by 8 plants, I get the average of 9.6 that I'm supposed to get. So I know this is the right answer because I was able to check my answer. Sometimes if they give you these kinds of questions and they're multiple choice, you can use your multiple choice answers in the empty spot to see if you can use guess and check as another strategy. Let's do one more of these. This one, a meteorologist recorded the average temperature in Hennepin was 66 degrees. So that's the average that we are given. Okay. The temperature of 6 of the days was recorded. There's our 6 temperatures we know. What's the temperature of the 7th day? So, meteorologist gives us an average of 66 degrees. We have 7 days in the week, so we'll multiply that average times 66 times 7 days gives me 462 needs to be the sum of the temperatures on all 7 days. Let's add the 6 days we know: 68, 69, 62, 65, 64, and 70. And we get a sum of 398 for 6 days. When I take the sum of 462 and subtract 398, that's going to give me that missing temperature. 462 minus 398 gives me a temperature of 64 degrees for the missing data. Can we check it and make sure we're right? Sure we can. Add these numbers: 68, 69, 62, 65, 64, 70, and 64 for the 7th day. We get a sum of 462, divide by 7 days, and 66. That's the average the meteorologist reported. So we have confirmed that that is the correct answer. So I hope this information about mean, median, mode, and range has been helpful to you. And you will, like I said, need it on more than just the science test, but these were some examples like you might see on the science test.